I want to be part of the people that make sure that Mars is treated the way it should be treated. If I were to be on the moon and somebody would tell me, okay, you be the first one to remove your helmet.
Speaking of chance, I guess you don't become an astronaut by chance? Welcome to IDUN Technologies. My name's Mark. I'm an application engineer by IDUN. We're developing brain-computer interface for everyday devices for the normal world. And with me today, I have
Eleonore Poli, a PhD student, and I'm an analog astronaut and aspiring astronaut.
So, what does that mean? Are you going to space?
For analog astronaut, no, I'm not going to space. I'm being an astronaut for the simulation of a lunar base. So we're going to do not exactly what astronauts do, but we're going to try to be as close as we can to them with a flight plan, with given tasks, with almost no contact with Earth. So we won't have our phones or things like this. We have to follow a plan. We have to perform experiments that will bring something to humanity, to science, and to human physiology. And we're also going to simulate isolation, not just by the phones, but actually we're not going to see anyone else but other astronauts during that period of time. And we're going to do what we call an extravehicular activity. It means to go outside of your base, but to simulate the isolation, we're going to try to develop spacesuits that we can wear and actually is a physical barrier to the outside world. The same as with astronauts. Astronauts, when they're in a mission on the ISS, the whole duration of the time, they're not in contact with real air or outside world, right? They're in a recycled environment, and when they go out, they're also in their own small spacesuits. So yeah, we're going to recreate this, hopefully.
And why do you want to do that, really? Like, what does it do for your life?
For my life, several things. I always wanted to be an astronaut. And this is a way to know, am I fit enough to actually be an astronaut? It's not the same as just being on a rocket and launching. It's not about knowing if I can pull 5 Gs or 6 Gs. It's knowing if I can stand being in a box for days at a time with somebody telling me what to do, when to do, how to do. Not in a very military way, but still in a control way. I don't have real control over my life during that time. I have to do something. I have to perform experiments. I have to get up at some given time. I have to do some sports to keep my body healthy and functional for when I come back to Earth. So there's the thing about me getting to know myself, getting to know, can I get there? Can I be a real astronaut? Although it's not the full level of being a real astronaut, it's still a good simulation. The second thing, it's being with a team of people who think the same way as I do. Not that we have the same personality, we're all very different, but we all share the goal of going to space. And this is not a dream that everybody shares. Some people just say, I want to be an astronaut, but the number of people that are actually ready to commit, ready to sacrifice, and ready to work hard for it is very small. And being with a team of people who are ready to do the same thing as I do, ready to work as a team, it's amazing. It's so cool. It's so, like, it makes you dream to know that there are actually people with whom you can work in an almost seamless way. That's mainly true during the experiments. Sometimes when we're all working on our different projects, we might not work seamlessly. But what's important is during the mission, I can trust any one of them. And we have the stream. So that's the second part. And the third part is to actually bring real interest to humans and maybe animals and to the Earth itself. A lot of people say, why do we still have astronauts in space missions? It's not sustainable. If we want to be sustainable, we should cut back on this. Actually, it's not completely true. Lots of what's discovered on the ISS or during missions is actually applicable to Earth. So when you want to have a sustainable habitat, you can actually see, okay, what do we need? We need as little as possible to do something that resists as much as possible. There's typically something sustainable you want to do, you know? And when you try not to contaminate in the environment, you also think in a sustainable manner. if we're going to be on the moon or going to be on Mars, we're not going to have many fields filled with grass where we can have cows and whatever. We will not be able to exploit the Earth the same as we do it here. So we have to adapt. And doing those missions allow you to test those experiments, allow you to see how humans react in those kind of conditions, and how to be more sustainable, and that does bring changes to the Earth. So those missions are extremely important and will actually bring change to the planet. So this is the third reason why I want to be an analog astronaut, and then I want to be an astronaut to bring change,
So I imagine you don't just start with going to space. Are there other smaller challenges you've gone through in life that sort of led up to this?
I don't know. When I was a kid, I was thinking about space, and I never really thought I would be an astronaut because I thought it was only for the elite. And then I wanted to do math physics. I was fascinated by the stars and how things worked. And then the older I grew, I then wanted to be an army pilot, military pilot, because I thought flying was so amazing. And flying in Switzerland is great because you don't kill anyone, you just have fun. Maybe I shouldn't say that. You don't just have fun, but you don't create damage. So it was, I just liked extremes. I like math, physics. I like making changes. And then I realized, well, everything I'm doing in my life is actually working towards being an astronaut. So why not try it? Why not try to go to space? Because you shouldn't work to be an astronaut only to be an astronaut. You should enjoy every step you have to get there. Everything you do in life, if they do bring you there, then it means that you probably built for that, right? Yeah. If I had tomorrow to force myself to do training that I absolutely hate to become an astronaut, probably I wouldn't want to be an astronaut at the end, because that would probably be part of my everyday life as an astronaut. So there was nothing really big that led me to it. It's just I realized that every time there was something difficult, I would just overcome it. And I was slowly walking there without even knowing. And now I'm much more conscious. I make some conscious decisions to get my CV ready to be a real astronaut. But at the same time, it's not an effort, really.
Okay.
So.
How else do you explore life? Also through research and science work? How do these, do you feel like space exploration is more about this human desire for adventure that some people have? Or do you feel that way about science as well? Or is it more just we find out facts about the world and we use them?
I think there's both. I think it's very exciting to think, we're going to Mars. It's like having a sand pit, and you can build your own castle. It feels a bit like this. But at the same time, the technological advancement you have to do to get there is massive. Yeah. Every war, every competition between countries, like when the moon race, things like this actually brought massive technological advancement that sometimes brought humanity forward, backwards sometimes in terms of niceness. But you have this technological advancement, and when we are now starting to race towards Mars. So I think it will bring a lot of technology, which then can be used on Earth.
So the desire to leave the comforts of home, going into the wide unknown expanse, as some people call it, that's interesting for you? That's something you really want to do?
Yes and no. I always thought that we needed to first take care of the Earth before leaving for Mars. Then I realized we're going to get to Mars anyway. And I want to be part of the people that make sure that Mars is treated the way it should be treated. That it doesn't get exploited the wrong way. And that the things that we learned there then brought back to Earth to make both place a nice place, not just one. We shouldn't export our problems to Mars. We shouldn't think that Mars is a porte de sortie and it's just an escape door, right? It should be a way to exchange technology. It should be a way to exchange progress. And that's what is appealing to me. It's not just the exploring part. It's the fact I would like, if I feel not entirely responsible, but I feel as an analog astronaut, by helping in getting there, I should also make sure that when we get there, we do the right thing.
So what's the right way to explore a planet?
make sure there's absolutely no life that you might damage on it. I think that's normally now when you send robots on other planets, you have to check that there's not too many bacteria or viruses or whatever that can actually survive on the surface. So there's like a limited amount you can have so that you're sure you don't contaminate the surface and the planet in case your rover crashes or whatever. Yeah. When we're going to get there, we're going to have much more waste. We're going to have much more bacteria. You know, you can't gamma ray somebody to just get rid of all the bacteria, right? It doesn't work. So we're going to have to find a way to make sure there's no life on Mars that we might destroy when we get there. Yeah. Once we're there, I think we're going to have the big exercise of documenting everything. What is a sunrise, a sunset on Mars? What is the beauty, the natural beauty of Mars that we want to preserve? And what is the necessary changes that we need to do to survive on it, or to, maybe we won't survive, maybe we won't spend 100 years of it, maybe we'll spend only 10 years and realize it's not manageable for us to live there. But during that time, we need to see what are the necessary changes and what are the things that we can keep that way and enjoy, still admire about this world being different from ours. So that's my way about it. We have to first make sure, then understand what we need and we don't, and then make it also comfortable for us. At some point, if you can only breathe in a spacesuit, even inside your base, and you sleep in a spacesuit, that's not going to be okay. You need to start having instructors that are fine, and also when you send people there, you need to make sure that they don't come back as, like with very, very big physiological problems or psychological problems.
Yeah, I mean, the psychological, it seems to be almost more insurmountable in some ways than the physical ones. I mean, how do you like mentally prepare for that concept?
It's difficult to say, because the people that actually have seen the Earth from very, very far, were those that went to the moon. And they say that when they went to the moon, seeing the Earth so small and being so far away was often a big crash for them. It was beautiful and yet absolutely daunting. When you're going to be on Mars, you might not even see the Earth. Yeah. And that's going to be the first time in human history, at least the history that we know. I don't think you can prepare for that. I think you can prepare for the length of the trip. You can prepare with being with a team. So, for instance, you will have optimal teams. You will train with people, become friends, like have very strong bonds, be with people that you trust, and that you don't hate the way they chew loudly or something like this. And you need also to know yourself in extreme conditions. Yeah. If suddenly your spaceship has a problem, you need to be able to stay calm and repair it and reset the course to Mars. Okay. So these are the preparations you can do. Long mission duration, finding the right team, knowing that you won't be for sure what's going to happen. And also one thing that they do that might be a bit morbid, but also know that you might never come back to Earth. That is something, especially for Mars, that will probably be something you have to prepare for.
Would you feel like you're giving your life to science or to society when you're embarking on this type of adventure, or is it more personal?
I'm probably not selfless enough to think I'm just giving my body to science. No, I'm enjoying this. So I would be helping science. I hope I would be helping humanity, but I'm not there yet. Give me another few years to think about it. But no, I think I'm also doing this for myself because I like the progress. I would love to see space from that far. Yeah. I think so. It's not just a decision for this, but yeah, I would be bringing something. I think.
Interesting. Yeah, because it's it's also a question when we talk about like the history of space exploration. There was like this competition between Russia, United States. There's the Cold War. And now the space race, it has like more of a commercial feel to it. Yeah. And I would say the motivations seem to be a bit different. So what are do you think we're getting closer to like the more idealistic reason for exploring Earth or exploring the outside of the Earth sphere?
Idealistic.
Yeah, it's like the question is why. There's always a question like why climb mountains. Like it really does. It's like climbing a mountain is like almost like a complete waste because like you don't. You it's only like personal. Like it's about personal challenge. You can climb with people that you really enjoy overcoming challenges with, but it's not like I don't know if you could say that climbing Everest, for example, is really helping anyone except for Edmund Hillary.
So, yeah, you could say maybe it's just idealistic, or maybe we're just going to look for diamonds or whatever it is. I think if we do that kind of things, as Kenny was saying, we don't do it because it's easy, but because it is hard. Mm-hmm. Why do we have the choice of doing something hard when we could do something easy and just stay on Earth? Mm-hmm. Because that's probably what makes us human. Not all of us, sadly, on Earth do live. They barely survive. They barely have enough food. Yeah. But the majority of us do more than survive. And humans are very greedy, and they always want more. Mm-hmm. If you always want more, you're going to try to push yourself every time. So, about survival, yes.
Well, yeah, okay. So this is kind of this interesting question that once you can survive, for some reason, we sometimes push ourselves towards endeavors that can kill us. And I don't know how that really works evolutionarily.
I think it's a way to make yourself grow. If you were to stagnate and have no more constraints, nothing that actually is difficult, nothing that triggers your survival mode. Yeah. Evolutionary ways, maybe you stagnate. I'm not a biologist. I'm not an anthropologist, so I can't say. But I would think it's just we, as a human race, might always try to make the next move, and that would be a way to do it. To spread as a race into environments that are not made for us, and somehow manage to survive. So this part where we're trying to do, we're not just surviving, we're trying to, live more and get triggered a bit more. And there's the other part, which is sad, but people are scared that the Earth might not be sustainable anymore, and you might not be able to live on it anymore. So instead, you go to a planet where you can't live on, and you try to make it habitable. These are, I think, the two big motivations. So one is for the challenge, and the other one is just for actual survival, funnily enough.
Well, I mean, also your body. I mean, if you don't use your body, if you don't maintain muscle mass, like it starts to degrade. Like everything about you is actually optimized, come to think of it, for living and having some sort of challenge in life, also mentally. So somehow that, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You challenge, and then you grow from either, I mean, you don't even have to overcome challenges. It's like just being challenged by something.
You just
and
survive.
Making the effort.
You're just living, you're just walking, buying an apple in the supermarket, and the only difficult thing you had in the morning was to look left and right for the bus to cross, And some people are not content anymore with this, right? And it's understandable, as good as it's, as nice as it is to be comfortable in life, to be able to, enjoy time with your friends, having a job that satisfies you. Sometimes you might look around and say, well, actually, I want to do more. I want to explore. I want to see something I've never seen before and do something that's never been done before. Why? Because it's not easy, So
what was the last thing that made you say, wow, this is something new?
I mean, Asclepios was something new for me. Analog space mission. Last year it was doing an Ironman.
You did an Ironman?
Yeah, too.
Where?
Haberswil and
cool.
In Weymouth. And I was supposed to do one this weekend, but cancelled. Fun times. So that was, for instance, a big challenge for me. Yeah. Now I know it's actually not that difficult. You just have to go for it.
But don't you have to train? I had a friend who does them in California, and she would train for 15 weeks or something?
No, I trained 8 weeks. It was my first one.
Only 8 weeks of training for your first Ironman.
I never did a triathlon before, and it was 14 hours of training per week.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it was fun. I survived. I made it. So that's the kind of thing you do in life. You think it's hard. You think it's impossible.
Yeah.
And once you've done it, you're like, it was easy. I had the same first time I ran a marathon. It was the same thing. You start running, and then you finished. And that's it. And then you're like, well, is this the biggest challenge I'm going to have in my life? No, I want something more. Give me more. Throw rocks at me, Like, it's not fun if I can just walk by and the path is straight and there's no hill to climb.
I think if I remember, they actually did that with the Matterhorn. Like, there was one team coming up one way, and then I think the Italian team was coming up the opposite side, and I think the British team, started to throw rocks at the Italian team. So they were trying to make it not too easy for them.
Well, I won't do that to people. I'll do that maybe to myself if I think it's not hard enough. But
so what motivates you when things are getting hard? Do you just want to see what happens, or how do you keep going? Do you understand the balance between almost killing yourself from exhaustion and pulling back at the right time?
So funnily enough, for instance, about physically dangerous situation. If I know that an activity is going to be not always dangerous, sometimes just very, very painful. For instance, imagine if I'm doing mountain bike. I didn't really do mountain bike, okay? So I have no experience in it, and the probability I'm going to fall when it's been snowing and I don't have the right bike is very high.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to do it. Not because I might die or because I'm scared, but because I know the amount of pain I might get from it won't be as great as the progress I will make on myself and the fun I'm going to have. So I'm a bit reckless. I love challenges, but I'm not stupid either. So for instance, I was having this discussion. If I were to be on the moon and somebody would tell me, okay, you be the first one to remove your helmet for 10 seconds, and then you would be known as the first person ever to do that, I would never do it because it's stupid. Yeah, sure, I would be the first one. I'll also be the first dead on the moon. Probably. Maybe not. But the fun I would get out of it would be way too low to make it worth it.
Okay.
So I like calculated risks too. I like sometimes say, I'm going to go paragliding, parachuting. But then I'm working with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes if I had a paragliding accident before, sometimes it happens, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you can't do everything on your side to be safe. So that's my philosophy. Do crazy things, but think a bit before you do them. Take a calculated risk. It doesn't mean it's not that you're comfort zone. It's very different, But it's still make sure that you're alive, because otherwise you wouldn't have had fun to,
Yeah, exactly. Share. I mean, it's always a question of doing this one thing, but still being able to do something. I mean, sometimes if I'm going out for the whole day, I'll do a Klettersteig in Braunwald, and then I'll finish one, and then I'm I'm really not that tired. There's a peak over there that I could climb, and then I'll start going towards it, and then all of a sudden, it looks really imposing at first, but once you start, climbing up, then you're oh, okay, yeah, I'll go a little bit further, and then as long as the weather is okay, and you're not going to get rained on, nothing serious will probably happen to you. Even though there might be a huge, free fall on one side of the mountain, just be safe and say, okay, I'm not going to go too close to that, and then it should be fine.
I think it's funny enough, that is a very astronaut thing to do. It's all about planning.
Yeah.
It's knowing you're going to do something very difficult, but making sure that there's kind of plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. And then in all of these plans, there's a safety net.
Okay. There
will always be a massive risk. You will still be living. Maybe you will have this much that protects you from outer space, from freezing and dying, But at the same time, there's a massive set of safety measures that are there to protect you and allow you to do the most amazing things without dying, So this is the kind of thing, the kind of philosophy I like to work with, It doesn't mean that every time I'm going to the train station, I have to optimize my path and say, if there's a car, I'm going to do a triple salto backwards and survive. It's obviously not that kind of thing. But for dangerous stuff, I like to have just a quick check. And it means that you need to be stressed because you will have done everything you could to be safe. The rest is chance. And there's nothing you can do about chance. Sometimes shit happens. That's the way it is. And you just have to accept it. But where you can have an impact, stay cool, apply plan B, apply plan C, apply plan D until one of them works.
Okay.
You know, and yeah.
Speaking of chance, I guess you don't become an astronaut by chance. So what advice do you have for other people interested in exploring outside of our Earth system?
So my advice, I mean, I'm not a real astronaut, so maybe my advice shouldn't be accounted for, but...
Well, you're somewhere along the journey.
My most important thing is look into yourself. Do you have the passion? I think most people, or at least all the people I've met that have space as a passion, have literal eyes in their eyes. It's very funny. Maybe it's not really the same in other hobbies and stuff like that, but space is just so fascinating, so great. And if you have this, then for one thing, try. That's the most important advice I can give you. Try. Yeah. Even if you think you're not fit to be an astronaut, still send your candidacy. If you think you can't make to this internship in an aerospace company, still try. Because you will never know if you can make it if you haven't tried, if you haven't applied. So that's the first thing. Especially if you love it, always go for your dream. Always, always, always. Doesn't matter if you don't manage on the first time, the second time, the third time, the 10th time, because you will meet people on the way that will come with you on this journey and that will change your life, you know. So that's the first thing. The second thing, make sure that every kind of trainings that you do to become an astronaut actually are enjoyable. If you don't like being fit, if you don't like sports, try to find at least one sport that you like that allows you to be fit, that allows you to learn discipline, you know. Trick your brain into enjoying something that you usually don't enjoy. Yeah. So that it doesn't become painful to wake up every morning just to see the Earth from afar. Okay? If that's the only motivation, you don't enjoy the journey, it's not going to be easy, you're not going to be taken. Okay? Yeah. You kind of like need to learn how to love the pain. So it's easier if you start early, you know. The first thing is have a look at other astronaut CVs, for instance. Yeah. Have a look at what exists. You don't need to be crazy impressed with them. Of course, they are amazing. Doesn't mean you can't get there. Doesn't mean you can't do several stuff at the same time. And do your own passions. If your passion is music, lots of astronauts actually love music. You know, I've been playing the piano since I was 2.5 years old. You know,
oh, cool.
And I would love to play in space. That would be fantastic. It's not crazy useful for me in space, but actually it taught me discipline. And also it's something that I can then share with my teammates. It's that you can, we had a mission where we were like playing and on the guitar and singing all together, and it was a really bonding moment. So go for your passions and try to see what you can learn from them, and then what are applicable in your astronaut program and the astronaut kind of task. Learn about yourself a lot. Learn about what triggers you, what stresses you, how you manage it. Learn how to be cool in any situation simply by knowing how you work, because you will then need to be trusted by your teammates, but trusted by yourself. If you don't trust yourself, you will never do crazy things. Yeah. Okay.
And what about team? Like, what's a strong team for you? What do you need in a team to be successful?
Depends on the task, I guess. I think you need people that are not too polarized. You need somebody who can lead, or you need several people that are independent enough that they don't need a leader. Yeah. You need people who are able to communicate. Communication, especially in space, is so important. If you have one person that starts being a bit sad, a bit awkward, you need to go to them right away and ask them what is going on. Okay. Because the performance could actually put other people's life at risk. Okay. If they don't repair the toilet, if they don't repair the oxygen producer, you will have a problem. You will have a big, big problem. So you need communication, you need trust, and you need people different enough that you can do a variety of tasks, right? If everybody has exactly the same profile, it's like talking to a mirror. It won't feel like a nice exchange. It will be like, why am I talking to this person? This person is me. I could just be talking to myself. Yeah. You know, you need people different enough that they can counterbalance yourself. So different people, different rhythm. In our team in Asclepios, we're all very different. Some are more extroverted, some are more introverted. Some are very poetic, some are much more engineers and scientists and straight to the point. And that's what's great, is that we're not all the same person.
Cool.
But we all have the same dream, and that helps us to work because you know why you're here. You know why you have to work. You know why you have to sacrifice because you want to get there at some point. And this is very, very important.
Cool. That sounds like a great overview of where you want to go and how you want to get there.
Trying.
Cool. So any other last thoughts about IDUN Technologies and what you want to do with us?
I was just trying to imagine me wearing them on Mars. Wearing IDUN Technology on Mars would be really cool. I think it's amazing. I think it will bring a lot of very interesting data.
Yeah.
It's like, I think the technology behind it is very, very interesting, and it will be very useful kind of on the communication side also for mission control to look at astronauts. Normally you have heart rate data, and they will tell astronauts, look, you're doing your EVI, your activity outside of the spaceship, and it seems you're a bit stressed. If they do actually see that the brain activity is okay, they might realize it's something that the body is a bit tired, and that's why your heart rate is slightly higher. Yeah. Heart rate is not always very, very reliable, So this kind of data would be very useful because it's extreme environment, and sometimes astronauts will be, the first time you go to space, you're a bit misorientated, It's you've never been weightless before, unless when you were maybe on the womb, but still you had a slight pull. So it's a new situation, and having somebody who can actually see that you are feeling this way and understand you better actually be a big relief.
Yeah, that's like our high goal for the technology is also to like characterize emotional response and essentially give emotional intelligence to connected devices. So in some past projects, we looked at applying our sensors to sleep. We went like climbing with our sensors, also to like try and push them to the brink, as much as possible that we can within our facilities. And like going into the mountains, that's for my personal feeling that I always felt like being an astronaut on planet Earth, because you go into this environment which is relatively hostile, and people sometimes say that they conquer mountains, which I think is absurd because it's like saying that a fly has conquered you by, sitting on your head.
You don't know her. Maybe it's very difficult.
But yeah, it's like, this idea that you can explore these different parts of the world, but you can only stay there for a short time. And so I'm really interested to see what we can achieve. Because we always have this dream of also pushing to space. We have team building activities where we build Lego rocket ships and stuff, because we also want to help facilitate people going into doing exploration outside of this world. So it's also like a higher goal for the company in many ways. So we're very happy to have that type of collaboration to explore these different use cases, to explore how sensors can participate with the exploration of humanity in space, I would say.
It'd be a way to go to space together. That'd be nice.
Yes, we would love to create spacesuits for you to go to space and to Mars.
That would be good. It would be really funny. I think also to have somebody that knows you almost on a deeper level. It would be very intimate to have your brain waves shared. But at the same time, you will also learn. I will learn so much about myself wearing sensors like this. Yeah,
that is like also the aim, that you understand yourself better. Because we process so much stuff subconsciously. We're not really cognizant of everything that's going on inside our bodies or our minds. And the idea is that through the sensor technology, we can help you understand yourself better.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you very much for sharing this conversation with us in the office. And we look forward to hearing more about your progression and building sensors for your spacesuit.
I look very much forward to collaboration, and thank you for having me here.
Whoa, you're welcome. So that's it for this podcast with Eleonore, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.